What is up, you guys? This is JP, and today we're continuing the series on going over the different program variables. So far, I've done intensity and I've done workout volume, and this series is pretty much going over every single variable and kind of talking about how much do each of these variables matter. Again, like I said, today we're going over rest periods. So to start, I'm going to be going over strength and hypertrophy, so we're going to be going over hypertrophy first. Now, this is a little bit more of the controversial one between the two. Strength isn't so controversial, and when I talk about that, you'll realize that most people are kind of in agreement on rest periods for strength. But for hypertrophy, it's a little bit more controversial. You have some people, or a lot of people from my experience, tend to lean more towards very short rest periods for hypertrophy. Again, even though I don't really get why, maybe it's just because they're not really digging into the exercise science research, but so far, the majority of exercise science research is leaning towards longer than 1 minute rest periods for hypertrophy, and the fact that it's beneficial for hypertrophy. And in my experience, I find that around 2 minute rest periods is optimal for hypertrophy, just from what I've done and then looking at the research as well. So I really don't like to dip down below 2 minutes rest periods. And again, there are different exercises, is different rest periods. So a bicep curl, I can go 90 seconds. It's not gonna be that big of a deal. Whereas squats or deadlifts, I might need to go 2 to 3 minutes even for hypertrophy. But again, the exercise science research for the majority of it is leaning towards a longer than a minute rest periods for hypertrophy, and it's gonna help you make more gains doing that. When you go too short on rest periods, the main reason why, or the actual reason why, you're going to be sacrificing gains in regards to gaining muscle mass is its effects on volume. If you could do this experiment on yourself, if you do a set of push-ups to failure, let's just say you do a set of push-ups to failure and you get 30 push-ups. You then take a 30-second rest period and then you do another set of push-ups. You're probably gonna get anywhere between 10 to 15 push-ups. I'd be surprised if you got more than 20. That 30-second rest period is going to make it hard to accumulate volume in between your sets. So from one set to the next set to the next set, it's just gonna be hard to keep up that amount of volume. You're either gonna have to do a lot less reps or you're gonna have to drop the load significantly. When you take more moderate rest periods, longer than a minute, 2 minutes, around there, you're gonna realize that you're able to recover better, and then you're able to get more volume in subsequent sets. And if you watch my video on how much does volume matter when building a program, I think it was like 2 videos ago, you're gonna realize that volume dictates the magnitude of adaptation in regards to hypertrophy. So again, when you're doing short rest periods, that means less volume and that means less gain. So again, when it comes to hypertrophy, it's not really, again, that beneficial. So, and in that sense, I think that that's where it's important, and that's where you can kind of drop the ball if you're going too short rest periods there. Also, and this one will apply to both, so I'll kind of transition into strength with this kind of point, is that rest periods for hypertrophy and strength are going to dictate kind of the quality of the sets. If you're doing a big compound movement like deadlifts or squats and you're taking too short of a rest period, your form, it's not necessarily going to suffer automatically. You might have extremely good cardio and you can keep really tip-top form with very short rest periods. But most people, if you're doing a big compound movement and you have extremely short rest periods, your form is going to take a hit to some degree, and that's saying it lightly. Your form might just take a little hit and that's it. Or on the very, bad end of this, your form can take such bad of a hit that you end up injuring yourself. So you have to remember that in regards to hypertrophy and strength, that rest periods are going to dictate the quality of the set. When you're fully recovered or you feel at least well enough recovered to hit a good quality set, your form's going to be tip top, and obviously that matters for overall just development of the muscle, technique, and it's just going to be a better quality set overall, injury prevention, everything is just going to be good. And looking at that same point for strength, rest periods are gonna help with everything that I just said in regards to form, but you have to remember too, strength is more focused on technique. When you're lifting for strength, you're lifting for numbers, but numbers only mean something in the context of something else. Look at powerlifting. Powerlifting has specific rules and depths and certain standards you have to meet for every single lift, and that's what makes the numbers count. If every single lifter could dictate their own form on the platform, the numbers wouldn't mean anything. If you have one person doing a quarter squat and one person doing an ATG squat, how are you gonna compare the numbers? So when you're looking at rest periods, if you have a long enough rest period, especially when you're training strength, you want that quality set. You want that technique to be perfect so that, again, if you're competing in a strength sport, you're a power lifter, or you have some standard you have to meet, you don't want that standard to falter. So it's kind of the same thing as technique, but again, it's kind of meeting the rules too with strength. Now, looking at strength from a rest period sense of volume, you got to think that volume still matters for strength as well, because one of the components of getting stronger is how much muscle mass you have. So you have to look at it from that perspective as well. So even though strength isn't going to be, it doesn't have as much of a dose-response relationship with the volume as hypertrophy does, it still matters. So you got to take that into account when you're still building a strength program as well. So again, looking at them both, you got to think hypertrophy, rest periods are going to be more affected in that in regards of volume. And then with strength, it's going to be a lot more in regards to technique, because if you're doing some strength exercise, you're gonna have a certain standard that you have to meet. So when you're comparing both of them, you gotta think about rest periods on both. Now, looking at them overall, some other things that you have to take into account is rest periods when you're looking at workout density and adherence. If you're taking too long of a rest period on the other end, and I know this from myself as well, the workout can kind of drag on, and I've had 2 to 3 hour workouts, not because I'm doing too much volume, but because some of my rest periods can be 4 or 5 minutes. If I'm taking a 4 or 5 minute rest period on a strength set and it's 4 sets, that's almost a 30 minutes for like one exercise. If I have 2 exercises set up in the same format, that's already an hour I spent on just 2 exercises. So that's, even if I'm not doing that much volume, that could lead to a crazy long workout. So you got to think about workout density, how dense your workout is, how compact it is, which could affect hypertrophy too. Muscle fiber recruitment. If you take too long of rest periods, the muscle gets too much rest, it stops recruiting all the possible muscle fibers that it can. So you got to think of workout density in the sense of hypertrophy, but you also got to think about workout density in the sense of adherence. It could be too long of a workout. If you guys have any questions, comments, leave them down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.